The most powerful thing we can do in our families is to get engaged in praying for them. Job was a man of prayer, and our first choice is praying like Job prayed. From Job's life, we need to grab and copy his habit of prayer. It's one of the clearest examples of the power of a father's prayers and of that other dimension most of us don't think about. Do you know what was going on with Job? Job was God's servant. Job had a family, 10 kids. He wanted them to live for the Lord. And in between those two was this cosmic layer where Satan wanted to do anything he could to disrupt the testimony of this family, to disrupt the impact of this family, to disrupt God's plan in the world. And Satan was behind the scenes. And Job is so aware of God, the cosmic level, and his family that he is praying. And it's a real challenge to prayer. And basically, starting in verse 5 of chapter 1, what we see is this. Now, follow along. This is the YouTube clip. I'm going to play it for you, okay? Job chapter 1, verse 5. We're looking at how Job prayed. Now, watch this. So it was, when the days of feasting had run their course, that Job would send and sanctify them, and he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." Thus Job did regularly. How would you apply this verse? See, that's the video part of it. Can we learn something about how to parent our families from Job's example? Yes. What we see, look at the very ending of the 5th verse. Thus he did regular. This had become a persistent way of life. This, what I'm going to show you from Job's life, had become what we would call a habit. You know what a habit is? Someone doesn't have to remind you about it. I mean, you have these habits. We all have habits. We're just like a web of habits. Job had a spiritual habit. Spiritual habits are good. And what we see, there are 5 distinct elements of Job's parenting choices or habits. And these, they just jump out of the Bible. Here's the first one. Job tracked with his children. Now think about what I'm saying. Job was in tune, in step. He knew what was going on in his children's lives. How old were these children? They were grown up. They had moved out. If you read the story, they already had their own houses. And they were going between their houses. They weren't little ones just lined up like little ducks behind him. These were out in the world. He's tracking with them. Look what it says, verse 5. Job is prayerfully following the daily life of his children. Note the words, when the days of feasting had run their course. You know what that means? Job knew his children were feasting. He knew how many days they were feasting. He knew when the feasting would be over. Job was tracking the events. Now, he wasn't intruding. You don't see him standing in the table running everything. You don't see him peeking in the windows, spying. Job was in touch. This week I had an interesting experience. One of my older children, I called them and I said, hey, I'm going to read to you this list of things I'm praying for in your life and tell me if any of them, need to be updated. And they said, well, I'm really busy. Why don't you just email it to you? I said, okay. I emailed it to them. Boom, my phone. I just hit the send button and my phone rang. They said, where did you get that list? I said, what do you mean? They said, where did you get that list? I said, every time you talk to me, I write down what you're talking about, and I've been praying for it, and it's been about 3 months, and I wonder how these were going. They said, you kept track of all that and wrote it down? I said, mm-hmm. And they said, well, let me fill in some details, and I'll email it right back to you, and I'll add a few more. And you know what I learned right away? There was incredulity that on a level of care and concern at that level, that we would remember and intercede. Did you know that that's part of what God... Look how he shows us in Job's life. Job knew what was going on in his children's lives. He knew the cycle of their house visits, their parties, their gatherings. He was in touch on a daily basis where they were headed. His following of his children around was in his heart because he had a godly concern for his children. Let me ask you, do you follow your children in your heart? Not just oh, I miss them, or oh, we used to have, or oh, I wonder if they're ever going to visit. But are you tracking with the events of their life and praying for them? See, that's the first choice we see in Job's prayer life. It takes time. In fact, I was talking to someone this week, and they were talking to their friends, and they said something to them, and they says, oh, yeah, I just find out everything on Facebook. And my son said, you know what, if you only know stuff from Facebook, you don't really know those people. Because he said, I know it from in person. You wait till it's posted. He said, who are your real friends that you know stuff about before they post it? That you actually know their life. Except for those people that are posting, simultaneously with every event. But you know what I mean. I'm talking about big events. So basically, are you following your children's lives? You and I will never pray effectively for those who are not regularly on our hearts. And Job is going to show us a little bit later in this passage that it's an ongoing being on his heart. It isn't just, have you ever had someone that you share something with and they say, oh, I'll pray for you. And they'll probably never remember that moment because it just was like a touch and go. But Job says, no, I'm committed to pray for you, and I am tracking with your life, and I'm going to intercede for you. If we jot notes on the areas to remember to pray for in their lives, we'll remember. If we have a list of challenges that they tell us that they have, and then we ask them about them, and then we pray for them, and then we ask the Lord to do stuff, and then we check with them, that's how we track with them. That's how they know that we care and that we're a part of their lives. We need to start praying for people and then ask them about those areas and then watch that frequent response, which is often amazement. Personally, these aren't even people in my family that I have my little list of people I meet, and I write something down, and I pray for them. When I bump into them in the hall, I ask them about that thing, and they just stop and look at me. And after they get over, they can't believe I remembered, they say, could I add something else? See, that concept of intercessory prayer is so vital. So Job, number one, tracked with his children.